Okay, we're starting our first lesson in Chapter 8. We are starting fractions. This is Lesson 1. Our essential question is, how can different fractions name the same amount? So we're going to start off with one that talks about factors. Factors are numbers that are multiplied together to form a product. The two factors that are multiplied together are the factor pairs of the product. So if you're doing 2 times 4 equals 8, 2 and 4 are the factors and 8 is the product. It's basically what that's saying. So here we've got example 1. A chef is arranging 48 strawberries in an array on a tray. Find all the factor pairs of 48 to see what kind of arrays can be made. Draw and label one of the arrays. So we're thinking of multiplication equations that can result in a product of 48. So you'll see all of them equal 48, and that makes 48 the product, and all the numbers that are being multiplied the factors. So they've already given us 1 times 48, 2 times 24, and it says 2 and 24 are a factor pair of 48. And then they're telling us 3, 4, and 6 are also factors of 8. So we just need to figure out 3 times what is 48. And if you're having difficulty figuring this out, you can use a multiplication chart that goes all the way to 100 because it is greater than 12, which is what we normally use. So 3 times, come on here, there we go. 3 times 16 is 48, which means 3 and 16 are a factor pair of 48. And then here, 4 times what is 48? 4 times 12. So 4 and 12 are a factor pair of 48. Woo! Okay. 6 times what? 6 times 8 is 48. So 6 and 8 are a factor pair of 48. So now, with the following, we can make the following equations. That this is basically showing all of the equations that will give me the product of 48. So rather than, the first one would be 1 times 48. The second one would be 2 times 24. And you get the idea what the rest of them are going to be based on what is right here. So see if you can figure those ones out. And hopefully you figured out 3 times 16, which is also here, 4 times 12, and 6 times 8, because that's what's shown here. Now, the second part it shows is draw and label one of the arrays. So the hardest one would be one row of 48. So an array is just a grid pattern, basically. And we could draw an array with 2 rows and 24, but that's going to take a while too. So I'm going to use what's probably the easiest one, the most square one, 6 times 8. So I'm going to draw an array in my drawing space to show 6 rows, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And those rows aren't straight. If I was doing this for real, I'd probably straighten out my rows. And then 8 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I have to fill all those in to make 48. And that'll how it will look when I fill in all 48. Yours should be much neater because you're not drawing on the computer. You've had more practice drawing with your hand than I have with the computer. Okay, so that's that example. This one is determine whether 64 is a multiple of 4. So this is sort of the opposite of the other one. If we were looking back on the, let me show you again. 48 would be the multiple of all of these. And now we're not looking for the factors. We're looking, we have the answer, and we need to find out, will 4 times something get me 64, which is why they've got this division problem set up. Because we can count by 4s till we get to 64, or we can divide either way. And that's what they're doing here. They're counting by 4s to get out and see if they end up at 64, or you can divide. I believe my pen will show. Okay, So how many 10s can I fit into 60? I can fit 1 10. 10 times 4 is 40. So when I subtract 64 minus 40, I get 20, and then I bring down my 4. So now I've got 4 into 24, and I can count by 4s: 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. So that is 6. So 10 plus 6 will give me 16, which is 16 times 4 is 64. So 64 is a multiple of 4. Or the other way I can do is 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36, 40, 44, 48, 52, 56, 60, 64. And since I got to 64, I can tell that it is a multiple. Either of these ways will show that 64 is a multiple. Okay, once you move on to the guided practice, the first part says find the factor pairs of each number, which is like what we did in the first one. So we've got 46. 1 times 46 will equal 46. And since I see it's even, the 1's place is an even number. I know that 2 is a factor. And then you're going to figure out what 2 times what is 46. So you can do tallies and count by 2's and figure out that last one. Or you can divide if you feel more comfortable with the division. 76. Because it's even, I know 2 is a factor, and I always start with 1 times 76 because that's always a factor pair for any number because of the identity property. And there's one more that is also a factor of 76 that you can figure out. Down here, you're looking, this is more like example 2 that we've got right here. Determine whether 64 is a multiple of 4. Here you're determining if 66 is a multiple of 6. If 86 is a multiple of 4, and if 78 is a multiple of 3. These are pretty big numbers to be counting by, so you're probably going to want to go to division. But if division is outside your comfort zone, you can still do counting up to get that answer, and you will eventually get there. I'd suggest you writing a list, though, because it's easy to make a mistake when you're starting at 3 and counting all the way up to 78, or starting at 4 and counting all the way to 86. So I suggest you write a list and don't just try and do it in your head. And before I let you go, I wanted to show you some of the problem solving. There are 49 snacks on a tray. Draw one possible array that can be made. This problem refers directly back to the example 1. So it's what are the factor pairs that get to 49. It doesn't ask you to draw the picture this time, so all you need to do is find all the factor pairs. And if you're still stuck, go back to example 1. This one, Ella is counting aloud by 6. Will she say the number 73? So this one refers directly back to example 2, and it's asking, is 73 a multiple of 6? So this one's factors, this one's multiples. This one's example 1, this one's example 2. Hopefully that'll help you finish this problem. Good luck and get to work.